Hello, everyone. Welcome to Teen Talks TV. Today's episode, we're going to talk about everyone's favorite topic, which is money. But before we get into that, I'd like to everyone to introduce themselves, and we'll start with our guest.
Hi, my name is Shantae Nicole. I'm the founder of Financial Common Sense.
All right.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tony Smith, and I am the executive producer of Teens Talk Television and executive director of InReach Inc.
All right, so we're going to go with our first question. I am currently a rising sophomore at Howard University. I am transitioning into young adulthood, and my first question is, how do I save? I have a couple of dollars from jobs that I've had that I've saved up, but I haven't really had a precise way to do that. Is there a certain calculation that you suggest people do in order to start saving?
So number one, have a goal in mind. That's the biggest thing, because if you don't, you feel like you're saving towards nothing. Like no one really just wants to just keep building up money. What is that for? It could be for emergencies. It could be for a big purchase you want. It could be for a small purchase. The idea is to always have that goal, so that is what keeps you motivated to keep saving. So when I was your age, well, I will say a little younger, I didn't have a goal. I was happy to make money. So I just spent my money because I didn't have a goal in mind, right? And so saving now, it makes it so much easier than it did when I was, younger. You have all these smartphones and all these apps that can auto draft your money, or it sets up different challenges for you based on your spending. So one app that I use is called Capital. It starts with a Q. So it's like Capital with a Q. And you can set different rules. So I can say every time I swipe this specific card when I shop, take out $2. So it does that. So we spend naturally anyway. So it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind, that you're spending naturally, but it's saving also. I know one thing, I was not very proactive when it came to saving. So I needed someone to take the money from me. I was not good about putting it somewhere. So another thing is setting up a separate savings account that's not linked to your current checking account, because it makes it so easy to withdraw that money and put it in there. But if it's like far away, it's less temptation. And then set it up so every time you get paid, it takes, a percentage. It depends on your expenses as well. I don't want to say, save this percentage, because if you don't really have expenses, there's no excuse why you can't save more. So just kind of look at what you bring in and what you have to pay out, and be responsible enough to stick to that goal you have.
Okay. You talked a little bit about different accounts. As far as banking goes, what should people look for within a certain bank? How important is interest rate and things of that nature when looking at different bank branches to bank with?
So when it comes to checking accounts, no fees, okay? Whatever doesn't have a monthly fee, they have so many student accounts now that don't have fees. They have so many accounts that say you can only operate online. You can't come into the branch. If you do, then there's a fee to do a transaction. But most people don't walk in banks these days. Everything is done online. You can deposit a check on your phone. So no, I don't need your brick and mortar Capital One. I can use your, online. And so they make it that it's cheap that way. Also, if it does have a fee, take a look at what qualifications you need to meet to waive the fee. So sometimes they say if you carry a specific daily balance throughout the month, they'll waive the fee. A lot of times it's a very high balance. So if you're a student, you're not making that much. I would just try to shoot for the ones that are like no fees, period. And for savings, yes, interest rates matter, but these days you're not going to get really high interest rates on savings accounts. The highest one I see now is Barclay. It's an online savings account, which is great. And I think it's like 2.01 or something. That's pretty high for a savings account. So look for those ones that are going to benefit you the most, but don't expect really high rates these days. Not for savings.
Now, you're talking about some pretty extensive vocabulary for a young adult. So what should people my age do to be financially literate? Do you suggest taking classes, speaking to parents, even though sometimes it's hard for a child to speak to their parents about financial things because they're not in the best financial situation themselves? So what do you suggest to help people kind of navigate their money?
The World Wide Web is right at our fingertips every day. There's nothing that I can't talk about that you can't find on Google. It's just a matter of what you want to learn about. The financial world is so broad. You have credit, you have debt management, you have savings, you have how to budget. It's so many things. So just take topics, write them down, and say, one day a week, I'm going to just research what is the best way to save? How much should I be saving? How do I create a budget? Because it sounds simple to me. I have a group on Facebook with 80,000 members in there. It's a very active group. And people say, how do I create a budget? And in my head, I'm like, duh, but it's not second nature to people. They don't know. But these are adults who've been working for years, who have children, who have bills, that are now saying, how do I create a budget? So the information is out there. Now, my group is at everyone's disposal because I can just give the information, but maybe join, a lot of people are on social media. Join a financial group on Facebook. There's so many out there, but my rule of thumb is always double check behind what people are telling you, because I'm a part of other groups and I spend so much time correcting misinformation that I have to just leave those groups. I say, I can't save the world. Even with me, if I give you information, go check behind me to make sure what I'm saying is correct. So there's a lot of people like me who are very well versed, and a lot of people who don't know a lot, but they think they do. So just be very mindful about who you're following. You have like Susie Orman, you have Dave Ramsey, and you have the Budgetnista. There's so many people out here that have the information, but do your due diligence to grab what you get from them and then research on your own.
Okay. Thank you for that. Another thing that my friends and I have been trying to figure out is how the heck credit works.
Oh boy.
I have a friend, I don't remember what we were talking about, and she asked us some question about credit, and half of us were like, yes, the other half were like, no. We were like, I think. We're like, I'm not sure. Does it count? So can you kind of walk us through what is credit, what's a good credit score, how to build it, all of the rundown?
That's the biggest topic in my group every single day, like credit. So here's a quick example. I love to give this example when I'm speaking at colleges or to elementary school students or churches. Let's just say Tony is my good girlfriend from college, right? Tony says, Shantae, I'm short on cash. I get paid next Friday. Can you please let me borrow $20? Here you go. What happens on Friday? I get my $20. So she does that a few times throughout the year. She always gives it back when I ask for it. That's great. She has good credit with me. So let's just say Miss Madison is both of our friends. And Tony says, Shantae, Madison's always borrowing money from me. She never pays back. I got to call her. She's ignoring my calls, sending me the voicemail, ignoring my text messages. So when Madison comes to me and says, girl, I'm short on cash. Can I borrow some money? No way. Because even though you've never borrowed money from me, Tony has told me how irresponsible you've been with her money. So I'm not going to take that risk. Now I can choose to, but guess what? I might say, all right, here's 20. And I'm like, she better give it back. And you may not, but that's a risk I took. Or I could say, no. That is how credit works. You have a credit report, right? Every time you take out credit, the lenders are putting your history. Are you paying on time? How long have you had it open? How many cars do you have? Is anything in collections? And so when you ask another lender for money, they don't know how responsible you are. So they're not just going to give it to you. They're going to say, let me see how she's done with other banks first before I take a chance. So they may look at it and go, no, ma'am. Or they may say, all right, we're just going to give you a little bit, though. Maybe like a $200 credit card, not $1,000, because we need to see how you manage this first before we. And so that's how credit works. How responsible are you with borrowing money and paying it back? So scores are calculated based on what's on your report. Just like when I speak to little kids, only way mommy and daddy can know how well you're doing in school is your report card. Well, how is your GPA calculated? Based on what's on your report card. Your credit score is based on what's on your credit report. So I have people in my group say, I have a collection, but it's not on my credit report. Is it affecting my score? If it's not on your report, it's not affecting your score. So yes, credit scores matter, but also what's on your report matters. Now, I know Credit Karma is the latest craze. Everyone's like, free Credit Karma score. FICO scores are what matter, okay? That's what lenders check when they're trying to see how responsible you are. If you go buy a car, they're pulling your FICO score. Credit Karma does not give FICO score. They give Vantage scoring, and it's calculated so much differently. So I know it's free 99 and everybody loves free stuff, but also keep in mind, people have gone to car dealerships with their Credit Karma scores and walked out with no car because they thought their score was one thing. And the car dealership was like, no, ma'am, here you go. Your score is not, and so it's always wise to know what scores you're checking. When you go buy a house, they're checking FICO mortgage scores. When you get a car, they're checking FICO auto scores. Don't walk in with Credit Karma scores. They're not going to check those. So the biggest thing is understanding scores, how they're calculated, which I don't really want to dig too deep into, but you can Google the 5 components of a score to see what are they pulling from your report to calculate that 3-digit number. Because so many people want that 700 score, but have no idea even how it's calculated. That's the foundation of credit. So borrowing money, being responsible. Last example, if you have collections, that means you did not pay a lender, they sent you to collections, and you have 4 collections, $200 here, 500 here, and then you go buy a house. You know what the lender is saying? You want me to buy a house for you for $300,000, but you couldn't take care of a $200 collection. It matters. Your credit history is so important. It's important to start as early as possible, but only when you have an understanding of how it works. Because they try to get you at 18, get this credit card, and you're like, okay, and you have no idea how it works, and that it starts from there. The snowball starts from there.
Okay, so you are saying as soon as possible, but when you're educated about it. Gotcha. And is starting off with something small like a phone bill a good way to start? Is that how that works? You do like little, like you can start off with smaller items before you get up to the bigger ones. So maybe like a phone bill or a car note, and then you work up to bigger things like insurance and mortgages and things of that nature.
So phone bill, insurance are things that don't go on your credit because you aren't borrowing, but it's a great way to establish responsibility and discipline. If you can barely keep up with your cell phone bill, you don't need to be taking out credit cards. Okay. So they only go on your credit when you default. That's when your phone, if you default, you leave AT&T, you never paid them your final bill. When they send you to collections, then it goes on. But think about it like this. Remember, credit is about borrowing money and paying it back. You're not borrowing money for your cell phone. You're just paying your cell phone bill. But with the car, the bank bought your car, and now you're paying back who? The bank. Right. So those things go on your credit. So tell your friends, Shantae said.
Yes, that's what we were going back and forth about. Now I know.
Yeah, they don't go on this, but again, it's a great way to establish responsibility. So I tell a lot of parents, give your kids bills to pay. I know it sounds silly and they laugh, but I'm like, if you have a 10-year-old in the house and they get allowance, charge them for stuff like 50 cents for Wi-Fi, $1 for electricity. They probably use the Wi-Fi more than the parents do, right? So just those little bills, like maybe 25 cents for water, $1 towards the groceries, whatever it is, they have to feel like, even though I get my allowance, I can't spend all my money at the candy store because I got to pay my Wi-Fi bills 50 cents and my water bills $1. It starts establishing that responsibility within their kids to know everything that comes in is not yours. My whole check, I wish it was mine, but no, I got to pay the Pepco bill. I got to pay, my T-Mobile. So start establishing that as early as possible. With credit, yes, as soon as you graduate high school, if you understand it, get a card. Start now.
That's a great idea.
And so you talked about, being 18, and when a lot of people hit 18, it's the new societal norm for everyone to head on to college. And one of the biggest issues a lot of people have, even in their late adulthood, is student loans. So how should people go about it? I know it's harder for us, being high school graduates to even kind of understand how all that works. But do you have any advice for people who are thinking about getting loans and things of that nature?
I am 40 years old. I am still paying student loans. So I'm going to go now. Thank you for having me. Good night. So yes, people tend to think that student loans don't operate like regular credit, right? I don't want to pay my student loans. How can I not pay them? Well, they actually paid for your classes. You got a degree. Why do you think you don't owe them back that money? I see it all the time. They think about it differently than a credit card or an auto loan. It is money that you should pay. When people are in a bind, the last thing they take care of is student loans. They're like, my car note comes first, my whatever comes first. They'll get their money when they get it. But then as soon as they default and it messes up their credit, they're like, oh, my student loans messed my credit. Well, it's a loan, student loan, okay? Borrowed money. So here's the thing that I would say. When you are in school, your loans are deferred until you graduate. And then even when you graduate, they give you 6 months before you need to start paying on them. If you have money, start paying while you're in school. Pay while you're in school. I don't care if they say you don't owe them. After you graduate, if you have that 6 months and you maybe get a job right away, start paying. A lot of people want to take advantage of that time frame, but guess what's still being accrued while you're waiting? Interest. So by the time you go pay, you're like, wait a minute, I only borrowed this much. Well, you waited the whole 4 years while you were in school and the 6 months after that. What did you think was going to happen? They're not loaning you money for free. They need to make money too. So if you can pay, even if it's $20, something, because we can blow $200 on fast food in a month easy.
Yes.
Okay. Pay towards your loans, because I know people, and even once you start working and you have to pay, you can defer your loans if you're on, falling on hard times. But there are people who defer year after year after year. And I look at their credit report and I'm like, you owe $90,000. They're like, yeah, the loan started at 30,000. So $60,000. I'm telling you, I'm no lies here. So pay something. Even though they give you that grace period while you're in school and they give you that 6-month grace period when you're done, pay something, because that interest is a killer. And when you finally start paying on your loan, all that money goes towards the interest first and then what you borrowed. So pay something. I don't get $5 a week. I don't care. Like, just pay something. Yes.
Gotcha. All right. With the current state that our stock market is in and our economy is in, for people who are looking or who thought about getting stocks before Corona, now after Corona, what advice do you have and how does it work and all of that good stuff with the stock market?
Can't specifically say what they should buy or shouldn't buy. I can give you some ideas on what to look out for. A lot of questions have been arising in my group because of COVID. Oh, the market is dropping. Should I jump in now and buy stocks? I have no idea how to buy stocks, but should I buy stocks? So 3 weeks in a row, I've done a class once a week on stocks. Some people have no idea even where to begin. They don't even understand the stock market has a close date and open time and close time. So there's a lot of things people don't understand. So it's called Investing 101. Let's just get to the basics before you run out and spend money. But here's the thing. There's something called a bull market and a bear market. Right now, we're in the bear market, meaning the stock market is on a decline. So people tend to say, I'm going to rush and buy stocks because it's the cheapest that they've been in a long time. Well, here's the thing. It could work in your favor and it could not. The economy could turn around. You can see stocks on the rise and you can benefit. But what tends to happen is as stocks continue to drop, guess what investors start to do? I'm going to pull out my money because I'm not going to keep losing. Well, guess what happens when they pull out their money? What happens to the stock? It keeps dropping. So people think, let me jump in now, but that's not always the smart thing. I would say, look at the trends, right? Look at, if you're interested in, like right now, everything's kind of shut down, but you're like, everything's opening back up. I know the airlines are going to start, rising back up, but look at the trends. Look at Southwest, look at American, look at Delta, and just kind of see what was the highest and lowest it was in the last week, in the last month, in the last 3 months. It can show you across the last year what was the highest it was and the lowest it was. Just look at trends before you jump in there. Of course, right now people are like, the beaches are going to open back up and the casinos and, think about those things. But so when you think about things that you normally use on a daily basis, that's the stuff I would be looking more towards. Like, okay, we use toothpaste every day. No one's stopping buying toothpaste because of COVID. So look into the manufacturers who make Crest or Colgate, or people are still eating cereal. Look at Kellogg's, look at General Mills, things that are consistently in use that aren't affected by COVID. Don't invest in Disney. Okay, yeah.
I was about to say that. You read my mind.
I mean, Disney Plus came out, so people are streaming more because we can't really go to the movies, but that doesn't always mean that's going to be on the rise. It was a big rise when Disney Plus came out, but now it's just kind of like mellowing out. So, but yeah, I wouldn't jump just because it's low right now, because I bought some because they were low, and every day I check and it's still in the red. It just keeps getting lower. And I'm like, maybe I should sell this stock. So, but just be really mindful, check the trends, the various sectors. Don't just look at Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn, because that's all the same type of sector. Look at oil companies, look at discretionary stuff like Target, Walmart, Kohl's, look at cereal, look at restaurants. Try to spread your risk. Don't put everything in all airlines because you're like, one of them is going to go up, because most times they tend to trend the same. Not always, but they tend to trend the same. So you want to kind of spread out your risk. And also you can check into ones that give dividends too. Every quarter you get paid for having stock in certain shares in certain stocks.
So what do you think about the services like Stash and I think Robinhood? I know I use Stash.
Acorns.
Acorns. I love Stash.
Yeah.
What do you think about those? Are good for
it's just good. It's easy access. In order to trade stock and buy stock, you have to do it from a brokerage or investment account. You can't do it from like your Capital One so some people don't want to open TD Ameritrade or open Charles Schwab. It's easier to just grab your smartphone, download the app, and then just work from there. So it's easier access. Also, some apps let you buy portion of a stock instead of the whole stock, and you can't do that with regular brokerage
Regular,
account.
right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And when you refer people, they're like, you get a free stock if you refer somebody to Acorn or Stash. And so, another way to get stock without putting money into it.
Alrighty. Now I want to talk about emergency savings. Because of COVID, a lot of people have been laid off, unfortunately. So that's made me wonder, well, how much am I supposed to be saving? What is a good amount? I know it really depends on how much your bills are, but in general, what do you normally tell people what percentage or what amount they should be saving in case of emergencies like we're currently in?
So I'm going to put some factors into this. And because this is what I typically see, people who have outstanding debt are always asking, do I save or pay off my bills? So not just the monthly bills, the outstanding debt, the credit cards, the medical bills, the collections. My rule of thumb is, and I really don't do percentages. I'm always like, if you have no savings, save your first $1,000. That should be at least a good starter emergency fund to have. Then aggressively pay off your debt, because what's happening is as you're saving thousands and thousands of dollars, your debt is accruing thousands of dollars in interest. But don't blow all your money trying to pay off your debt, because what happens when you have an emergency? You run back up your credit cards for the emergency. And I hear a lot of people say, oh, I use my credit cards for emergencies. No. That should not happen. So save your first $1,000, aggressively work towards paying off your debt, and then whatever your monthly expenses are, shoot for 3 to 6 months worth of your expenses. If you lose your job, you know that for 6 months, every single bill is going to be taken care of. Your rent, your car note, your cell phone, your whatever you pay monthly, take that amount and work towards saving that at least 3 to 6 months. If you can go beyond that, fine, but 3 to 6 should be the minimum. Because with COVID, like you said, people are like, should I save my money or work on paying my bills off? I'm like, do you have any savings? Oh yeah, I have about 4,000 saved right now. Okay, pay those debts off. You know what I mean? So it really depends on what you're working with. For somebody in college that really doesn't have outstanding debt, yes, stack your bread, because I did not do that. And so when I look at my first job ever, I was 19 years old. I worked at a bank, okay? And I made okay money for back then, but I did not save, okay? And I just say, if I just took $20 a week, that is nothing. $20 a week from age 19 to 40. How much would I have? And when I actually did the numbers, I think a little tear fell. I think it really did. I wasn't sure. It may have been from this hour, I don't know. But it fell, because I'm like, I could have had well over $60,000, $70,000 right now from $20 a week. Like, but why was that not? No one ingrained that in my brain. And we don't think about 40 when you're 19. That sounds like eons away. Yes. But it came fast. So but the idea is that start saving something. Look at what you spend your money on. That's another thing. When it comes to spending and saving, oh, I don't have such and such to put in a savings account every month, but how much did you spend on this month, or this month, or brunch, or happy hour? You guys shouldn't be going to happy hour. You know what I'm saying? But the idea is that we spend so frivolously, and then we like, I don't have enough money to save. I know you do. You're just deciding where to put it somewhere else that's more important than your pocket.
So continuing along with that, when you talk about our monthly or like weekly expenses, do you suggest that people have a monthly budget, or should they just plan for the year, or around their bills and things like that? Because my mom was like, okay, well, I know I have this meeting, so I'm going to go eat out for lunch this day. So I'm going to give myself $40 this week to go out to eat for lunch. And then the next week I'll only go out once or not at all. Do you suggest that people start making those types of decisions and mindset changes when it comes to, our everyday lifestyle?
What people tend to do is budget for their monthly expenses, and then whatever's left, they just spend the whatever's left. There's no such thing as whatever is left. Every dollar should have a home. So if I have car note, cell phone, electric bill, daycare, or whatever my standard monthly bills are, whatever's left, make it have a home. If I know that I get my hair done every 2 weeks, then my budget is $120 for that. That has a home. Then I say, I want to give myself an eating out budget of $100 a week. That's $100 a month, $25 a week. That's that. So budget down to $0. There should be no such thing as money left. Designate your money to everything so that all your extracurriculars have a budget. Because when you just do, oh, all my bills come up to this month, so I have $400 left, you just spend it on like whatever instead of like hair, eating out. Me and my husband love going to the movies. So we give ourselves a movie budget. Like this is what we spend for the movies every month. If you don't, you blow your money and then you're like, where did my money go? And those are the people who say, I live paycheck to paycheck. No, you don't. You have extra money and you just spend it however. So I say budget down to zero. Give every dollar a home. That way, all your discretionaries are still budgeted for. So your mom is doing a really good thing. People work downtown, they spend $12 every day on salad. Like how much is that at the end of the end of the month? It adds up. $7 here, $5 here. You swipe and you just keep swiping, and then at the end of 30 days, you're like, I spent $800 this month on fast food, and it does happen easily. So yes.
So that question fits into advice that you would give to parents who are dealing with their children are now going off to college and maybe they haven't saved yet, or they haven't saved and they're thinking, well, how can I make this work for the next few years? Like, what are some tips for them? Likewise, for parents who have the younger children. So I know ideally we would like to start saving before the kids even come along, but that's not actually what most people do.
Yeah.
And so what would you give for each a parent with the child that's, the child's going to college now, and then the parents with the younger children they have more time to plan?
For the college kids, I would say if there's a parent who didn't learn the proper way to spend their money, tell them your story. Like, listen, guys, I don't want you to end up like me. And I know it's hard to hear from your parent like Madison to say, oh, my mom was like, yeah, this lady, but it's like, say, listen, when I was your age, if I had done this, this, and this, I would be here. Like, don't you want to be there? You don't want to end up like me where I'm grinding and trying to pull money from everywhere. So just kind of share your story. A lot of parents feel like that's grown folks' business, or they don't need to know my finances, but then they end up where you are. So feel free to open up and share what it's like to not meet your goal because you spent your money. Give the example of, no one taught me and now I'm teaching you. You're going to take advantage of this from now through the rest of your life. So share your mishaps and your downfalls so that they say, oh shoot, because we think our moms are our saviors, our dads are our superheroes. We don't think anything's wrong. I didn't know my mom was broke all the time. She's like, when you were a cheerleader and you had to do this and that, I didn't pay rent sometimes so you can go to prom camp, and I didn't do this. But I'm thinking she has all this money. When I was an adult, she finally said, I sacrificed a lot so you can have this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, but you don't know because they're just paying stuff and doing stuff. So actually share, like, this is the real deal. For younger kids, we did a session called What It Takes to Run a Household. We did this virtually a couple months ago for a financial literacy month in April. And like some of the kids were like 11 and 10 years old. They were like, wow, because they're like, you don't know how much mommy and daddy really have to spend to just run the household, gas, the car, mortgage, all those things, your gymnastics class, all this stuff that you just get to take advantage of. If parents just welcome the kids into their financial world and not be embarrassed or go, they don't need to know how much I'm spending. Yeah, they actually do. Mm-hmm. So they can see that mommy's money comes in from working and she doesn't get to keep all of it. She has to pay for stuff that you take advantage of, like the Wi-Fi, like sleeping in your bed. I have to pay for this house. So I think that parents can start by just having the conversation, introducing your children to your financial world, and giving your kids responsibility. They have so many debit cards for children these days. When you go to the store, if you give your children allowance, upload it on their debit card so that when they go to the store and they're like, mommy, can I have this? You can say, you got your own card, get your little wallet out. And they just feel so great. They get to swipe and put their little PIN number, and it gives them a sense of, entitlement to their own money and responsibility. Start that as early as 6 and 7 years old. No joke. It does not have to start when they are in high school. Your kids don't have to have allowance. If your family members give them birthday money, guess what? That's money they can put on their card or save it. So just have the conversation. Parents aren't talking about money. That's the bottom line.
It's a great idea.
Bottom line.
That is the end of our show. I would like to thank you for joining us today.